Since 1983, FAME has helped business and education work for Maine. Contact the authority, the Finance Authority of Maine. You're watching Maine Biz Sunday, Maine's business news source.
Welcome back. The topic today is economic development in Maine. Our guests are Matt Jacobson, CEO of Maine & Company, Charlie Spies, Managing Director of CEI Capital Management, Michael Obie, President of Eastern Maine Development Corporation, and Bob Thompson, Executive Director of the Androscoggin Valley Council of Governments. Okay, that was good. Let's keep going. We were talking about kind of the overall, should there be an overarching plan for the state? I know the regions are really active in understanding what's going on. You talked about the Mobilize Maine effort and getting business involved, et cetera. Charlie, you were going to talk about that too. Talk about, from your perspective, how does that work?
Yeah, I would agree that an overarching strategic framework makes sense, but I think it's also important to recognize that there are different places in Maine with different economies. The program that I manage for coastal enterprises is called the New Markets Tax Credit Program, and we're the second largest in the country right now. We manage $683 million in allocation. We've been able to put $160 million in investments in Maine, and with a lot of those in rural areas, and some in metropolitan areas as well. But the thing about that program is it allows you to adjust to what the needs of those communities are. For example, we've done 2 projects up in Aroostook County, which is a high out-migration, very much focused on job creation and retention. And then we've done projects in southern Maine and Portland and other places that look at diversification within those local economies. So programs like that have the flexibility.
Well, let me jump in. Yeah. How do guys like, on this side in particular, who kind of got regions carved out, they're doing their economic development, they know their businesses in the region, they know what's going on. How do they know what you've got? How do they know what you've got? How does that coordination happen?
Well, we all knew each other before we sat down today. Maine is not a big place. As they say, if you're not careful, when you walk around the corner, you'll run into yourself.
Right. I know, but formally, how did we really get to?
Formally, we network. Matt's group provides a great foundation, if you will, for what are the interests from outside. We work in Bangor, in that region, with what Mike's doing, and worked with Bob forever. There are networking events in the state, but really what you got to do is dig deep and be part of the business community.
All right, let me ask another question along that line. Is competition among you all and among regions, is that healthy or not healthy for the state? Competition for, hey, I want to land that job here, I want to land that company here.
Healthy. Extraordinarily healthy. I would say it's healthy as well.
It's not a bad thing, as long as...
You know, we all have a common conviction, which is that we'd rather have it stay in Maine than go somewhere else or come to Maine.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're working with a company now that we want to keep them in Bangor, and the Mobilize Maine effort and the people in that committee have gotten together. The option for that company is probably in southern Maine, south of Portland. Well, that's a win too. I mean, if they grow in Maine, that's fine, but we're going to do our best to keep them up here. Yeah. And we're going to utilize the programs. And I think it gets back to what Charlie was saying earlier. We network very, very well in Maine. That has never been an issue. The issue has been, I don't think we've ever identified our assets and our particular focus by region, which will allow us to spread that activity.
And that gets back to informing sort of the strategic discussion around what are the tools I need to make that happen.
Well, the Mobilize Maine piece, it was meant to be regional, but then roll up to a statewide piece, which gets back to that kind of, at least we have some idea of where the opportunities are.
Where the assets are.
Yeah, and where the assets are.
Because that's where you have to start.
And identifying from a regional perspective. I can't tell you how many times we'll have a success at Maine & Company, and then 25 town managers will call me up and say, geez, can you come to my town and do the same thing? And I'll go up and I will ask them, what do you want? And they'll say, oh, we want to be biotech. And they'll be in the middle.
Me too.
And I'd say, well, which stripe of biotechnology? And do you realize that every community college in North Carolina has a biotechnology associate's degree in biotech manufacturing, and that there are none in Maine? You're gonna, I mean, you can do it. You just need a big bag of money. And we don't think through sort of, okay, what are really our assets and what can we capitalize on?
All right, I want to throw in another question here, because it gets to we've talked about a lot of what can happen, but also there's an investment side of this thing too. And 2 reports are out this week, the Measures of Growth report from the Maine Economic Growth Council, and also the Comprehensive R&D and Evaluation report, the DECD Commission. And no surprises in any of these reports, actually. I think you probably anticipated most of them. Red flags on the R&D expenditures, some gold stars from the Maine Economic Growth Council for international exports. That's good. But also interesting in the Comprehensive R&D Evaluation report, we've doubled our R&D level of expenditure and activity at the university level, but we're still like at about 50 or 70% of the United States average. And within that, our total R&D expenditure, we're 40th. Our fast-growing companies, we're 40th. Our patents, we're 42. And science and engineering enrollment in college, we're 51st. So I have 2 questions for you guys. what does this really say about us in terms of how do we need to invest in going forward? And second, how can you be 51st?
Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico's ahead of us.
Yeah.
All right.
By a
So
long shot.
what should we? I mean, the R&D thing and science, and talk about that for a minute as it relates to economic development and what your experience is.
I think there's a couple of ways to take a look at this, but I think you need to at first talk about to whom we are competing. We are a state that's about the size of Jacksonville, Florida. Okay, so when you think about how thinly we're spread, we have also suffered a significant outmigration of headquarters functions and headquarters companies. It has not been a focus for us for a very long time. And over time, the banks and a lot of the headquarters functions have migrated out. So I think we need to take a look at what are the building blocks towards R&D. It's not just what the government spends, but it's the kind of companies you have here, and what are you willing to do to attract the kinds that you want.
Is investing in R&D about growing companies that are already here, or is it about bringing new ones in? What's the?
I think it's both.
Yeah,
I think
agree.
it's both.
Absolutely.
Absolutely
They support
both.
each other. If you create that critical mass, then they'll feed off each other in the system that we hopefully will happen. I think one of the biggest challenges we faced in Maine is as we've moved up the grid a little bit in terms of investment in R&D, we haven't done the commercialization side. We haven't increased the capacity to do that either by funds or by mentoring programs.
But I think we also,
Prototype it here and they manufacture
but
somewhere
there's
else.
also a point. I mean, when we invest in R&D, to me, that's a euphemism for investing in the university.
Yes.
You know, we
Have we done that? Do
We
have
have
what we
not.
need? Yeah.
We have not. When you think about our university spending is less than Mississippi's. Now, there's an issue there, and it seems to me that we're really talking about our educational facilities, and there's a whole conversation to be had. Do we need to have the same number of university campuses as does the University of California? And probably a case can be made that we could shrink the number and increase the quality. But those are kind of conversations that we'll probably have here in the next year or two.
Do the businesses that you guys work with, your customers out there every day, do they support that? Do they say, man, we got to invest more in the university system? Or do they say, man, stop spending my money?
What I hear is they want to invest more in the university system, but they want it focused.
They want to
Okay.
Where are we going? And that's where
This
the
gets back to
resources
you always
should
talk about the what's
and
the
it's not
program?
Sports management.
All right.
And it's not, and it's not just the university system. It's the community college system. We have an
Yeah,
instance
that's
here
what I'm-
where I have area precision manufacturers
Yeah.
that are looking for testing labs, that are looking for those levels of access to equipment. But really, what they want is they want it to be an energy that generates youth interest. I mean, we haven't talked about that yet, but you know, we need labor. We need younger labor. And these people look for those areas where they can go to school and then get that on-the-job training
Get a job.
concept, and that'll help grow the businesses. It's a proven fact that these centers, you know, of excellence in research and development generate and spawn jobs and new businesses.
What do you think, Charlie?
I would agree with what was said earlier. I would say that businesses are very interested in investments in community colleges and the university if they see that as an investment and a resource for them.
Right.
There has to be something of value there. I wanted to also add that the R&D is a very important piece, early stage growing in Maine, but that's a patient game. I mean, you have to be willing to do that for the long term. Acquisition or bringing in companies from outside is a way to a parallel track that helps move that forward more quickly. There needs to be a
Did we
dual
already be
strategy.
there and bring the commercialization?
Well,
for
that's
change?
right. I mean, you know, one of the things that I'd love to see us do is offer some goodie bag to the top 20 business plan competition winners at MIT. And
Okay.
if 5 of them
Yeah.
took it and came to Maine,
Yeah.
well, wouldn't that be
Right.
good?
All right, we're going to have to wrap right there, but I'm going to keep you around for an afterthoughts because we've got more to talk about. All the stuff we were talking about, plus we're going to talk about some of these issues that are coming up in the legislature now as it relates to economic development and get you to weigh in on that. So everybody's going to hear that. Stick around. You can catch more of this discussion about what's new in Maine's economic development world in our exclusive afterthought segment seen only on the web. Just go to mainbizsunday.com. We'll be right back.
Maine Biz Sunday is made possible in part by funding provided by the Finance Authority of Maine.